It was Tuesday morning, and the world felt utterly ordinary. The gentle hum of the city outside, the usual scent of coffee brewing, just another day unfolding. Then, my phone rang. Seeing my sister's name flash across the screen usually brings a familiar warmth, a quick catch-up, or a casual joke. But this time, it was different. Even before I answered, a cold knot formed in my stomach. Her voice, when it came through, was tight, strained, etched with a raw panic I rarely heard. "Mom's been rushed to the hospital," she choked out. "Pneumonia." The words hit me like a physical blow. Pneumonia. My mom? Fragile. Always putting everyone else first, now fighting for her breath in a hospital bed. My heart didn't just pound, it slammed against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of fear. I don't remember much else of that initial conversation, only the overwhelming, desperate need to get to her. My mind raced, trying to grasp the suddenness, the terrifying immediacy of it all. It felt like the ground had just fallen out from under me. Everything about that call screamed emergency. Just happened. Sudden crisis, but what my sister didn't tell me then, the chilling truth I would later uncover, would cut deeper than any illness. It was a betrayal that still twists my stomach. A cold, calculated move I never saw coming. The drive to the hospital was an agonizing blur. Every traffic light felt like a personal insult, every passing car too slow. The sterile scent of antiseptic hit me the moment I stepped inside, a stark reminder of where I was. I found my sister, in the waiting room, her eyes red-rimmed, her face pale. A fleeting sense of shared burden, of we're in this together, washed over me as we finally went in to see Mom. She looked so small, so weak, lying there in the pristine white sheets, but her eyes, tired as they were, still managed to light up faintly when she saw me. I held her hand, tried to offer reassurances, whispering comforting words that felt inadequate against the stark reality of her condition. It was in that very moment, as my entire being was focused on Mom, on her shallow breaths, on the fragile grip of her hand, that my sister dropped the bombshell. Casually, almost like an afterthought, she began talking about a cruise, a prepaid non-refundable cruise with her daughter, leaving that very day or the next. The words hung in the air, surreal and utterly unbelievable. Mom was barely clinging on, and she was talking about a vacation. My brain struggled to compute. I must have looked utterly dumbfounded. She quickly, almost too quickly, added that she'd already arranged for me to visit Mom while she was gone, as if it were the most natural, obvious solution. As if Mom's serious, sudden illness was just a minor inconvenience to her meticulously planned holiday. The sheer audacity of it left me speechless, a knot of confusion and a prickle of resentment beginning to form in my chest. My sister departed shortly after that conversation, leaving me standing there, a strange cocktail of emotions churning inside me. Disbelief, primarily. How could she, in good conscience, leave for a tropical getaway while our mother lay in a hospital bed? The logical part of my brain screamed, but the deeply ingrained family obligation, that sense of needing to be there for Mom, pushed the questions down. So, I nodded, mumbled something about taking care of things, and watched her go. There wasn't even a proper goodbye, just a hurried exit, a casual wave. It felt less like a reluctant farewell and more like a convenient handoff. The immediate relief of having one less thing to worry about, or so I told myself, quickly faded, replaced by a growing knot of unease. The next few days blurred into a monotonous cycle. I'd wake up, try to shake off the lingering anxiety, and head straight to the hospital. Mom was stable, thankfully, but still so fragile. I'd sit by her bedside for hours, holding her hand, reading to her, sometimes just watching her breathe. Each time I left the hospital, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in my mood occurred. The initial urgency had given way to a quiet, gnawing loneliness. It wasn't just the worry for Mom, it was the peculiar absence of my sister. A quick text, here and there, a breezy house Mom. That was the extent of her communication. No frantic calls, no worried updates, nothing that indicated the shared panic I felt just days before. It was almost as if she'd simply vanished. The crisis conveniently forgotten, leaving me to shoulder the entire burden alone. As the days passed and my sister's generic texts continued, those tiny seeds of doubt began to sprout. I started noticing little things, insignificant on their own, but together, they painted a confusing picture. One afternoon, a nurse, making her rounds, mentioned something about how long Mom had been with us. Her tone was casual, but the words snagged in my mind. How long? I dismissed it, thinking maybe she meant since Mom was admitted this Tuesday. But then, later that day, as I was gently brushing Mom's hair, she mumbled something in her sleep about Friday. A single, seemingly random word, yet it echoed that same odd feeling. It was unsettling. My sister's frantic call had made it seem like Mom had been rushed in that very morning on Tuesday. Everything was presented as sudden, acute, but these small, disjointed fragments of information kept chipping away at that narrative. Why would a nurse imply Mom had been there for a while? Why would Mom, even in her sleep, mention Friday? A subtle chill began to creep up my spine. It was a feeling of being slightly off kilter, like a piece of a puzzle was missing, or perhaps deliberately hidden. My sister had been almost too eager to hand over the hospital visiting duties, almost too relieved to set off on her cruise. It was as if she needed me occupied, completely immersed in Mom's care, leaving no room for questions. The more I sat there, alone with Mom, the more I began to scrutinize the timing, the sequence of events. A silent alarm was beginning to sound in the back of my mind. The subtle whispers of doubt were becoming louder, more insistent. Every time I visited Mom, I found myself instinctively scanning the room, listening to snippets of conversation from nurses, searching for anything that might confirm or deny the unsettling feeling that had taken root. I'd noticed the dates on some of Mom's paperwork on the bedside table, half hidden beneath a get-well card. They didn't align perfectly with the sudden Tuesday admission narrative my sister had fed me. It was like tiny discrepancies, like loose threads, slowly unraveling a carefully woven fabric. I tried to push it down, to tell myself I was overthinking, that stress was making me paranoid. But the more I tried to ignore it, the more persistent the feeling became. Why did everything feel just a little bit off? This growing unease started to overshadow even my worry for Mom. It was a different kind of anxiety, a prickling sensation that something fundamental was wrong, not with Mom's health, but with the story I'd been given. I found myself replaying my sister's phone call, her upset tone, her carefully chosen words. Had it been a performance? Was that genuine panic I heard, or something else entirely? The more I questioned, the more those initial moments felt theatrical. It was a chilling thought, turning a moment of shared crisis into a meticulously orchestrated charade. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing a crucial piece of information, a key that would unlock the truth behind these nagging inconsistencies. The silence from my sister, punctuated only by perfunctory texts from her cruise, felt less like a vacation and more like an evasion. The quiet hospital room, usually a sanctuary of calm reflection, now felt charged with a different kind of tension. I couldn't just sit there anymore, letting these vague suspicions fester. My mind needed answers. One afternoon, while Mom was deeply asleep, a small worn notebook lay half-tucked under her pillow. It was her personal journal, where she'd sometimes jot down appointments or little reminders. A small, innocent detail, but in that moment, it felt like a beacon, a possible key to understanding the chronology of her stay. My heart began to pound, with a different rhythm, not fear, but a rising mix of apprehension and a strange, desperate hope to find clarity. I knew it felt wrong, invading her privacy, but the need for truth was overwhelming. With a trembling hand, I reached for it, pulling it out gently. My eyes immediately scanned the pages, searching for dates, for anything related to her admission. Each turn of the page felt significant, a step closer to either confirming my fears or dispelling them. My gaze fell upon a particular entry, a date circled boldly in red. Last Friday, not Tuesday, Friday, and underneath it, scrawled in Mom's familiar shaky handwriting, a single, devastating word: hospital. The air felt knocked out of my lungs. Friday, 4 days before my sister's frantic, urgent call on Tuesday. The pieces of the puzzle didn't just fit. They slammed into place, forming a picture of deliberate, cold-hearted manipulation. My sister knew. She knew Mom had been here for days. And she had lied. The notebook, Mom's gentle, familiar handwriting, the stark dates, it was all suddenly so undeniably clear. Friday, Mom had been admitted to this hospital on Friday. My sister, my own flesh and blood, had known about it for 4 days before. She ever bothered to call me? My blood ran cold, then simmered with a slow, building rage. The frantic, upset phone call on Tuesday morning wasn't a genuine cry for help or shared concern. It was a perfectly timed, calculated performance, a desperate plea designed to manipulate me, to ensure I dropped everything and rushed to the hospital just as her prepaid non-refundable cruise was about to embark. The sheer audacity, the callousness of it, hit me like a physical blow. Every word she'd uttered on the phone, every subtle hint of distress, now replayed in my mind like a twisted, cruel movie. It wasn't about our sick mother, it was about her convenience. About needing a warm body to fill the hospital vigil while she sailed away. The casual mention of the cruise, the hurried exit, the almost eager handover of responsibility, it all clicked into place with sickening clarity. It wasn't a last-minute decision or an unforeseen emergency. It was a deliberate lie. A lie designed to exploit my love and concern for our mother, turning a genuine family crisis into her personal solution to a vacation dilemma. The feeling was a sharp, searing pain, not just of anger, but of profound betrayal. It wasn't just Mom who was sick. It was our entire family dynamic, suddenly revealed as fundamentally broken. The realization was like a heavy, suffocating blanket settling over me. I stood there, rooted to the spot, the small notebook still clutched in my trembling hand. The sterile hospital sounds, usually so muted, suddenly felt amplified. The distant beeps of machines, the hushed voices of nurses, all seemed to mock the deafening silence of my shattered trust. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate act of deception. My sister had chosen to prioritize her vacation over my right to know about our mother's critical condition. She had chosen to manipulate me, to use me, and to lie about something so profoundly important. The image of her on that cruise, perhaps sipping cocktails on a sun-drenched deck, while I sat vigil by Mom's bedside, unknowingly operating under a falsehood, filled me with a bitter resentment. It wasn't just the inconvenience, it was the utter disrespect, the implication that my time, my emotional energy, my genuine concern for our mother were disposable and could be exploited for her selfish gain. How could she look me in the eye, pretend to be worried, and then orchestrate such a calculated lie? The question burned, a fiery knot in my gut. And what about Mom? Why hadn't she told me? Was she complicit? Or was she too weak, too vulnerable to speak up? The layers of this betrayal felt endless, each one revealing a colder, more painful truth about the people I thought I knew. The trust, once an unspoken given between us, now lay shattered, an irreparable fracture in the very foundation of our relationship. The days that followed my sister's return from her carefree cruise felt surreal. She came back with that sun-kissed glow, talking about the amazing time she had, completely oblivious or expertly feigning oblivion to the storm brewing. Inside me, she asked how Mom was, with a practiced concern that now sounded utterly hollow. Every "how was your day with Mom?" felt like a fresh cut, a reminder of the elaborate lies she'd spun. It was a superficial level of interest, devoid of any genuine empathy or acknowledgement of the burden she'd placed squarely on my shoulders. I'd just nod, give brief updates, keeping my true feelings locked away. The sheer effort it took to maintain that facade, to pretend everything was normal, was exhausting. The image of her on that ship, perhaps sipping a fancy drink on the deck, while I sat vigil by Mom's hospital bed, unknowingly operating under a deliberate deception, now played on a loop in my mind. It wasn't just the inconvenience, it was the profound disrespect, the cruel implication that my time, my worry, my genuine love for our mother were disposable and could be exploited for her selfish desires. That sting of betrayal lingered, a constant, dull ache beneath my ribs. It wasn't just anger, it was a deep, searing disappointment. How could someone I loved, someone I trusted implicitly, be capable of such calculated deceit? The question gnawed at me, relentless and unforgiving. The foundation of our relationship, once so solid, now felt like crumbling sand. A part of me, a loud, screaming part, desperately wanted to confront her, to unleash the torrent of anger, hurt, and disbelief that churned within me. I imagined the words, sharp and precise, piercing through her feigned ignorance. "You knew, you left Mom here for days and lied to my face so you could go on a cruise." I pictured her reaction, shock, perhaps denial, maybe even a twisted attempt at justification. But then, a weary exhaustion would settle in. What was the point? Would she even admit it? Would she offer a genuine apology, or just another flimsy excuse? Another layer of manipulation. The thought of the confrontation felt almost as draining as the betrayal itself. So, I remained silent, carrying this heavy secret like a physical weight. Every interaction with her was tainted. Every smile felt forced. Every conversation superficial. The betrayal was an invisible wall between us, thick and impenetrable, even though she seemed utterly unaware of its presence. It wasn't just about her actions, it was also about Mom. Why hadn't Mom said anything? Was she trying to protect my sister, even at my expense? Or was she simply too weak, too vulnerable to realize the extent of the manipulation? That question, too, lingered, adding another complex layer to the pain. It was a suffocating feeling, to be living with such a profound hurt while outwardly maintaining a semblance of normalcy. The silence became its own kind of screaming, an unspoken accusation that resonated only within my own fractured heart. This profound betrayal didn't just affect my relationship with my sister. It cast a long dark shadow over our entire family dynamic. Every gathering, every phone call, felt different now, tainted by this unspoken truth. I'd look at my sister and see, not just my sibling, but someone capable of such cold, calculated deceit. It changed how I viewed her entirely. The easy laughter, the shared memories, they all felt coated in a film of pretense. How could I trust her with anything, large or small, knowing she'd so willingly, so casually, lied about something as critical as our mother's health? It was a constant internal battle, trying to reconcile the sister I thought I knew with the person who had so effortlessly manipulated my emotions for her own convenience. The secret became a wedge, quietly pushing me further away. It's a strange kind of loneliness, to be in a room full of your family, yet feel utterly isolated by a truth only you seem to carry. I'd observe her, searching for any flicker of guilt, any sign that she might acknowledge the gravity of her actions, but there was nothing, just the same carefree demeanor, the same self-interest that now seemed glaringly obvious. It was a suffocating feeling, living with such a profound hurt while outwardly maintaining a semblance of normalcy. The silence became its own kind of screaming, an unspoken accusation that resonated only within my own fractured heart. The lingering question that haunted me, almost as much as my sister's deceit, was why? Why did she feel the need to lie? Was it simply about saving money on a cruise that was already paid for? Or was there something deeper, a fundamental lack of empathy, a self-centeredness that ran through her veins? And why hadn't Mom told me herself? That question, too, gnawed at me relentlessly. Was she trying to protect my sister, even at my emotional expense? Or was she too ill, too vulnerable in those initial days to fully grasp the extent of what was happening around her? It felt like another layer of betrayal, this quiet omission from my own mother. Every time I visited Mom, even as she slowly recovered, those unspoken questions hung in the air between us. I wanted to ask, to understand, to demand an explanation, but the words always caught in my throat. I didn't want to upset her, not while she was still regaining her strength. But the silence, the lack of acknowledgement from either of them, compounded the pain. It wasn't just the initial lie. It was the continued pretense, the unspoken conspiracy of silence that followed. It made me feel like an outsider, like the only one who truly understood the gravity of what had transpired. This experience wasn't just about Mom's illness. It was a brutal awakening to a side of my family I never knew existed. A side capable of profound disappointment and heartbreaking deception. Living with this secret, this raw truth of my sister's deceit, became an immense weight. It wasn't just the betrayal itself, but the isolation that came with it. I couldn't confide in mutual friends, not without airing dirty laundry and possibly damaging relationships irrevocably, and talking to other family members felt impossible, too. How do you explain that the person they see as the caring, responsible sibling is actually a master manipulator? The thought alone was exhausting, knowing it would likely lead to defensiveness, denial, or simply a deep discomfort no one wanted to address. So, I carried it alone, the knowledge festering inside me, slowly poisoning every memory, every interaction. Felt like I was living a dual existence. On the surface, I was a supportive child, visiting my mother, tending to her needs. Beneath that surface, I was a person grappling with a profound sense of disillusionment. I found myself scrutinizing past events, replaying conversations with my sister, searching for other instances of her self-serving behavior. Had this always been there, hidden beneath a veneer of normalcy? Was I just too naive, too trusting to see it before? The more I reflected, the more patterns I started to recognize. Small red flags that I had previously dismissed as quirks or forgetfulness. It was a painful re-education, forcing me to confront a darker truth about my family than I ever wanted to acknowledge. The burden of this secret and the constant questioning finally brought me here, to you. To this space where anonymity allows for vulnerability, where shared experiences can offer solace and perspective. I needed to unburden myself, to lay out this story not just to vent, but to truly understand. Am I overreacting? Is this level of betrayal a common occurrence in families? Or is my reaction valid, a natural response to a deeply hurtful and manipulative act? These questions have circled in my mind relentlessly. Without a clear answer from within, I've found myself scrolling through countless stories, true confessions, and advice columns, desperately seeking a reflection of my own pain. A sign that I'm not alone in feeling this profoundly shaken. Because right now, the anger is still simmering, but beneath it is a deep, aching wound of hurt and confusion. It's hard to reconcile the image of the loving family I thought I had with the stark reality of this deception. This isn't just about a vacation, it's about trust, about respect, about the unspoken rules of familial loyalty that I believed were unbreakable. I'm reaching out, hoping for some clarity, some guidance, on how to navigate this fractured new reality with the people I once trusted implicitly. The betrayal created an invisible wall between my sister and me, thick and impenetrable, even though she seemed utterly unaware of its presence. It's a strange dynamic to navigate. We share a family, a history, a mother, but there's this gaping chasm of deceit that only I can see. Every time she calls, every time we're in the same room, I'm acutely aware of the unspoken lie. It's like she's speaking one language and I'm speaking another, unable to truly connect beneath the surface of pleasantries. The ease, the intimacy, the shared understanding we once had, it's gone, replaced by a constant, low-level hum of resentment and distrust. This isn't something I can just get over. It's a wound that keeps reopening with every casual interaction, every reminder of her self-serving nature. It affects how I see our entire past together, forcing me to reevaluate memories, to wonder if other moments of generosity or care were just subtle manipulations in disguise. The trust isn't just broken. It feels shattered into so many pieces that I don't know if it's even possible to put them back together. And the weight of this secret, the burden of being the only one who knows the full truth, makes me feel incredibly isolated within my own family. So, where do we go from here? That's the question that keeps me up at night. Can a relationship truly survive such a profound act of betrayal? Can you ever genuinely forgive someone who so casually, so deliberately, chose to deceive you about something as critical as your parents' health? The anger has, at times, given way to a deep sadness. A mourning for the sister I thought I had, and for the uncomplicated family dynamic that no longer exists. I look at her now, and it's hard to see beyond the lie, beyond the cold calculation, that allowed her to prioritize a vacation over my peace of mind and our shared responsibility. The thought of confronting her still looms, a heavy cloud. Part of me believes that for any healing to begin, the truth must be spoken, acknowledged, perhaps even apologized for. But another part fears the outcome, more denial, more defensiveness, and ultimately, more pain. What if confronting her only deepens the rift, makes the situation even more unbearable? This isn't just about my feelings, it's about our mother, about the fragile ecosystem of our family. I'm caught in this agonizing limbo, knowing the truth, feeling the hurt, but unsure of how to move forward without causing even more damage. This isn't just a story about a family emergency. It's a raw, painful account of broken trust and the enduring scars of betrayal. So, that's why I'm here. This is my confession, laid bare for a community of strangers. Because sometimes, when you're caught in the eye of a family storm, you need an outside perspective. I've replayed every moment, every word, every subtle glance, countless times in my head. I've questioned my own sanity, wondering if I'm somehow misinterpreting the situation, if my emotions are clouding my judgment, but every time I trace it back, the facts remain chillingly consistent. My sister knew Mom was in the hospital days before she called me, and she strategically timed her urgent call to coincide with her prepaid cruise. The weight of this secret, the burden of this knowledge, has become too much to bear alone. I needed to unburden myself, to release this toxic energy that's been festering inside me. I needed to know if others have faced such a profound betrayal, if this level of manipulation is something families actually do to each other, because, right now, the isolation is almost as painful as the betrayal itself. This isn't just a story I'm telling, it's a plea for understanding, a cry for validation that my feelings of hurt, anger, and deep disappointment are justified. That's why I'm turning to you, the Reddit community, the collective wisdom of those who have seen and heard it all. Am I overreacting? Should I just let it go for the sake of family harmony, even if it means burying this painful truth? Or is this a fundamental breach of trust that cannot, and perhaps should not, be easily forgiven? I'm grappling with how to move forward. Do I confront her, risking an even deeper rift and potentially hurting Mom further? Or do I continue to carry this burden in silence, allowing the bitterness to corrode my own peace of mind? Your insights, your own experiences with similar family betrayals, mean everything to me right now. I need to know how you navigated such complex, emotionally charged situations. How do you rebuild trust when it's been so deliberately shattered? How do you protect your own emotional well-being when those closest to you prove themselves capable of such profound deception? This isn't just about a sick parent and a selfish sister. It's about the very core of trust, loyalty, and what it truly means to be family. Thank you for listening to my story, for allowing me to finally articulate the pain I've carried. What makes this betrayal even harder to bear is the deafening silence from everyone else. No one else in the family seems to know the full truth, or if they do, they've chosen to ignore it. My mother, recovering now, has never once mentioned the discrepancy in dates or acknowledged that she was in the hospital for days before I was informed. This lack of transparency, this unspoken agreement to gloss over the hard facts, adds another layer to my pain. It feels like I'm the only one carrying the weight of this deception, the only one truly seeing the cracks in our family's carefully constructed FAQ aid. It's a lonely place to be, holding on to a truth that no one else seems willing to acknowledge. It forces me to question everything, our family's values, their willingness to confront difficult truths, and ultimately, where I truly stand within this dynamic. Is it easier for them to simply pretend, to maintain a superficial peace, rather than addressing the profound dishonesty that occurred? This isn't just about my sister's actions anymore. It's about the collective blind eye, the unspoken complicity that allows such betrayals to fester without consequence. Carrying this truth in silence has taken a significant toll on me. It's not just the initial shock and anger. It's the insidious way it gnaws at my peace of mind. Every time I interact with my sister, a part of me recoils, unable to fully engage. Every time I see my mother, I wonder about the things left unsaid, the conversations we never had. This unaddressed betrayal has created a constant hum of anxiety and resentment in my life. Like a low-grade fever that never quite breaks. I used to believe that family meant unwavering support, unconditional love, and a bedrock of trust. This experience has shattered that ideal, leaving me questioning the very definition of family. It's shown me a colder, more calculating side of human nature, especially within the confines of what should be the safest relationships. The cost of her cruise wasn't just money. It was the erosion of trust, the fracturing of a bond, and the enduring emotional pain that I am now left to navigate alone. This isn't just a moment of drama. It's a profound shift in my perception of loyalty in the people I once held closest. So, what now? I can't stay stuck in this cycle of anger and pain. The truth, however bitter, is out in the open for me. My sister's actions have irrevocably changed how I see her and how I understand our family. The easy, uncomplicated bond we once shared is gone. It's a grieving process, really, mourning the loss of an ideal, the loss of a trust that I once believed was unbreakable. I'm learning that sometimes, the hardest betrayals come from those closest to you, and the most challenging path is the one where you protect your own peace, even if it means redefining relationships. I'm starting to understand that my healing isn't contingent on her acknowledgement or apology. It's about how I choose to move forward. Do I let this consume me, or do I find a way to process it, to set boundaries, and to protect my own emotional well-being? This experience has been a brutal lesson, a stark reminder that even within family, you have to protect yourself. It's a realization that's both empowering and incredibly lonely. This whole ordeal has forced me to redefine what family truly means to me. Is it just a bloodline, or is it built on something more fundamental, like honesty, respect, and genuine care? I've come to realize that some bonds, even familial ones, can be deeply flawed, even toxic. And sometimes, the healthiest thing you can do for yourself is to acknowledge that, and adjust your expectations accordingly. It's a painful truth, but an important one. I'm not sure what the future holds for my relationship with my sister. Perhaps time will bring some clarity, or even a pathway to a different kind of connection. One built on a more realistic understanding of who she is, but for now, I know that my priority must be my own emotional recovery. This isn't just a story about a family crisis. It's a raw, personal journey through the sting of betrayal, the weight of unacknowledged hurt, and the difficult process of finding my own path forward amidst the wreckage of shattered trust.